I was going to hold off on doing this video. It's the second one for mosquito-borne diseases in Colombia. But with the response of the one that I did yesterday, I think it would be appropriate if I expanded on that video and put it up today. In that video, I only brushed the surface, but with the interest in mosquito-borne diseases here, I think we should get the second one out there. My name is William Hutchison. I'm the owner, along with my wife, of Armenia Colombia Realty for Expats in Armenia, Colombia, where I have lived in Colombia for 13 years now, well, in October, and 12 years in Armenia. I'm going to refer to my notes because there's a lot of information here that I need to make sure I've pulled off the internet and it's accurate. There's two caveats. First one is the only time I could find Condil mentioned, and this is the whole department, was in one of the diseases, and there was only 2 cases. Off the top of my head, it doesn't come to mind, but I'll cover it off when we get there. One of the most safe cities, or little towns, is Salento, which is about 30 kilometers from here. It's safe both for mosquito-borne diseases and also for crime. It's one of the safest little places in Colombia. The second one is the World Mosquito Control Program is active in both Medellin and Cali, that are both situated in valleys. Along with the numbers from there are some numbers that are not current, but the locations that I'm going to tell you about, the departments, they're called departments here, not state or provinces. They haven't changed. The high-risk departments are still high-risk departments. High elevation locations, for example, Bogota, are too cold for the mosquito populations to thrive. So in some cases, Bogota, probably most, is deemed safe, and there's no incidence of these diseases there. The best advice I can give you is to research these things. I spent probably 3 hours this morning. You could spend probably 10, but I think once you do the research and refer things to your medical provider, then you can make a decision if you're coming here as to what precautions you might want to take. The first comment I want to make, positive, yellow fever. The stat that I found was that last year, 2022, there was no yellow fever in Colombia reported. I looked for this year on a couple of sites. There's no information for 23 for the first 3, 4, 5 months. So I'm going to assume that there are no cases in that time frame as well. If that's the case, Colombia has been clear of yellow fever for 17 or 18 months. I want to talk about malaria first. In 2020, there was 81,363 cases were reported. 80,236 were classified as uncomplicated, which is 98.6% of the reported cases. 1,127 were classified as complicated, which is 1.4% of the cases that were reported. The moderate to high risk areas are rural and jungle below 800 meters of elevation. So that would include the departments of Amazonas, Chaco, Cordoba, Guayana, Guaviare, Putumayo, and Bichara. The moderate departments for malaria, are Orinoquia, Pacifico, and Uraba Bajo Cauca. No risk are the major cities. That would be Bogota, Medellin, Cali, excuse me, San Andres and Providencia, and the highland and mountain areas. In this year, for up to June 1st, there's 35,734 cases. 904 are considered to be serious, with 14 probable deaths. That's probably going to come in similar to 2020 as far as the full year is concerned. Colombia also has dengue. In 2022, there were 69,497 cases. That was up from 53,334 in 2021, but down from 79,000 in 2020. The incidence is 70.5 cases per 100,000 people at risk, not total population, because a good percentage, roughly half, of the population of Colombia is not at risk. So if you take the whole population, the incidence is about 30 cases, perhaps 35 in every 100,000 people. So 70.5 cases in Colombia. You compare that to Nicaragua with 1,455 cases per 100,000. Belize has 1,104 per 100,000. And I'm sorry, that's Brazil, 1,104 per 100,000. And Belize is 789 per 100,000. So even Belize is over 10 times the incidence of Colombia. In 2023 to March 31, there's been 25,002 cases reported. The big areas to watch for are Meta, Tolima, Barranquilla, Sucre, Cundinamarca, Atlántico, Cartagena, Cali, Cordoba, La Guajira, Huila, Norte de Santander, and Cesar. Those areas, some are departments, some are cities, had 73% of the cases, just a little over 18,000, and 10 deaths. The top 5 in cases for last year were Barranquilla with almost 1,700, Villavicencio with 1,400, Cartagena with almost 1,100, Cali with just over 1,000, and Soledad Atlántico with 775. There's another disease transmitted by mosquitoes called chikungunya. There's not much current info on it, but the symptoms are very high fever, headaches. It's more symptomatic in women. It causes joint pain that can last for years. In 2022, Guaviare had 46 cases, Valle del Cauca, Cali had 26, Antioquia, Medellin had 21, and Cundinamarca had 15. 22 other departments had 8 or less, and there was 2 cases in Quindío. Currently, there was no vaccine for this disease, but there are some in preclinical and clinical trials. Zika. There was a big outbreak here, I think it was 2014, but since then it's been pretty much under control. In 2021, there were 0.23 cases per 100,000, or roughly 1 in 425,000 people. In 2022, it dropped to 0.15 cases per 100,000, or roughly 1 in 700,000. There were 138 cases reported for the whole year. That, in a country of about 54 million people, that would be a 1 preceded by quite a few zeros to get to the percentage. Again, there's no vaccine to prevent this. I hope that gives you information. It's readily available on the net. If you just Google those diseases in Colombia, essentially safe. Stay out of the provinces, departments that I've mentioned, and there should be almost zero risk for anything. I've been here, as I say, in October for 13 years, and I've never heard of a case locally that has ended in death or anything like that. Of course, I could be far removed too from those statistics. But to have all of these diseases and only 2 show up in Quindío, and Salento, for most of these, being rated the #1 place to live in Colombia for no incident of these diseases, I think speaks well. The one thing is, at higher elevations, the mosquitoes can't live, and for the most part, that's 2,200 meters. So if you stay into the higher regions, I think Salento is around 1,900. Armenia, depending on where it's measured, if it's at the airport, I suspect it's around 1,450. But if you live up here, it gets closer in the north part of town, because as you drive north from the airport, the elevation increases. And I think up here, it would be closer to 1,600. I don't know if the closer you get to 2,200, the less mosquito populations there are, and where they can thrive. It would make sense to me, but it may not be a fact. If they cannot function at 2,200 meters, it would make sense to me that they can function completely at 2,000, but that may be false. Maybe at 2,000, 15% can function, and that's a huge difference in the risk factor. William Hutchison, Armenia Colombia Realty for Expats. I hope you have a good day. It's been a great day here, sunny, about 80, and it'll go to the usual 60 tonight. I live in paradise. You can too.